Hey friend, Roderick Christofferson here again with another first listen review. Kind of a first listen review in a way, but also it's a re-release of an old album, which wasn't even referred to as an album back when it was released. It was called a mini album by Brian May. It is Brian May's Starfleet project. This one's called the Starfleet Sessions box set. And I remember hearing about this album, I'm going to call it an album I guess, back when I was a kid, and it was kind of like one of these things, because there was no internet back when this came out. There was, went to the store, you bought it, and if you didn't buy it, you couldn't find it at the record store, you just didn't get it. And it was like one of these things, it was kind of like the Holy Grail, you just couldn't find it anywhere, but you heard about it from people, and you'd read about it in magazines, about people referring to it and stuff. But it wasn't until years and years later, when the internet came out, I actually decided, hey, I'm going to hunt down some of these albums I've been looking for years, and found eBay, and I started ordering all kinds of stuff on there back in the early 2000s, and found this on there. And I remember the original release, and I remember getting it, being all excited, and the build up to this was like huge, because I've been waiting years and years and years to get this, and got it, and I was like, hey, that was extremely okay. But that was kind of my initial reaction to it. It's like, probably because it was built up so big. But when I heard this coming out, it was going to be coming out, I was very excited about it, because I'd always wanted to hear what the extra stuff was that they didn't use, which is basically what this is. It's just all the extra stuff they didn't use. It's supposed to be everything. And so I was really excited. I knew what it sounded like ahead of time, because I'd already heard it, so I wasn't like, I knew what I was getting. I knew exactly what I was getting with this one. So when I listened to it again, some fresh ears, because I haven't listened to this in a very, very long time, the original, I was like, oh wow, this actually does sound pretty cool. I wish I had not had that build up before listening to it for the first time, because it's actually real good. And I didn't know that any of the I don't know if I remember what the backstory was, but it was something to do with Brian May watching some cartoon with his kid, and it was some Japanese cartoon that translated over into Starfleet in America, and he just really liked the theme song, and he did a new arrangement of it himself, and just called a couple of his buddies that lived near him. Just happened to be Eddie Van Halen was one of his neighbors or something. And this also features Alan Gratzer on drums, who was the drummer for REO Speedwagon at the time, and Phil Chen on bass, who was like a session player, and then Fred Mandel on keyboards, who had actually toured with Queen, I think, on the album previous to this, or the album I can't even remember, but he had been a touring keyboardist with Queen, so that's kind of how he knew all these guys, and got them together and wanted to do this song, and he really wanted to showcase Eddie Van Halen on Starfleet song and let him take the main lead. And that was I thought very nice of him to do that, and that's the reason I was more of a Van Halen fan growing up, and I was more into the idea of hearing Eddie Van Halen play than I was Brian May. No this to Brian May at all, but I was more into Van Halen at the time, and I grew to love I grew to love Queen. Like, I remember the minute I fell in love with Queen was when I saw them play. And this might be the same for a lot of people, but when I saw them play Live Aid, and they did Radio Gaga, which is not really a rockin' song at all, and the whole crowd was clapping along with them, I was like, wow, that band is amazing. So, and I was young. I was very young at the time, but that left an impression. In fact, I was at a party last night with a bunch of friends, and we were actually talking about that very moment, and how it inspired all of us. So, I mean, that was one of those moments where I became a Queen fan, Brian May. And so anyway, this back to the album here. If you don't know what to expect from this, basically what it is it's the original album. Actually, it starts out with a remix of the first of the original album. Actually, it starts out with the single remix, which I don't know. I don't know why they did a remix of the single. I wish they'd done a remix. Well, they did do a remix of the whole Starfleet song, but they put it at the end of the first CD for some reason. I wish they'd actually opened with it. And then the other two that were released on the original, and then there's a couple interviews and some live stuff, and then that's the whole first CD, and then the whole second CD is all the outtakes. And if you get the box set, which is the only way you can get this, which kind of stinks, you get an extra red vinyl version of the original release, and then you get a mini single of Starfleet, and then there's a song called Son of Starfleet on it. So really the only thing like really stands out is that Son of Starfleet extra thing there, and they give you a little badge. But there's a cool book, so the book is cool. So if you want to know like the whole history of everything, which I have not read all of that, but it's, you know, you get that. The price tag on this is a little high, and I actually did a video a while back when the was it Eric Clapton and Gary Moore released their box sets, and there was like one had a bunch of bonus stuff and the other one didn't, and I was kind of like, how do they get away with it? Well, they get away with it because people are willing to pay it, but you know, is it really worth it? Well, obviously I thought so, because here I am sitting with it, but you know, sometimes these box sets get a little extreme in the price, and it's just like about $100 depending on where you look for it. But anyway, I actually fortunately knew what I was getting, and I knew what to expect, and CD2 was what I was really interested in. And I just sat down and just chilled, just laid back on the couch and just listened to this whole thing through. And it was just fun. It was fun. It was that just made it worth it. I mean, it's just a bunch of, and because I've played in bands my whole life, so I know what it's like, and I could picture what it would be like with my friends making music and jamming. And there's some, you know, bantering going on in between songs, and you can hear them like kind of developing what they're going to do on it. You know, take after some of these, you know, takes are only like less than a minute. Some of these songs are just like jams that they just broke out into in the middle, no rehearsal, no nothing. And it's amazing how these guys can come up with stuff just off the top of their heads, and you know, just you get to see the real genius, not only of Eddie Van Halen, but you know, of the rest of the musicians, and how they just can follow each other and just, you know, come up with stuff. Even though a lot of this is just blues based stuff, there's a few extra things in there. They took some left turns, and it was just cool to hear all that, and I really enjoyed that. And the recording of it is pristine. It's good because, I mean, it was a studio recording. It wasn't just a bunch of guys sitting around. Somebody had a boombox or sitting around in the corner taping it. This is all professionally recorded. These are all like sessions, so the recording quality is top notch, which I thought it was going to be. I think the only thing on here at all was there's a overdubbed solo on one of the songs, one of the Starfleet takes by Eddie, and everything else is completely just live and rehearsal and working stuff out. And I just thought that was really cool. And there's not a lot of the singing on it's kind of like Brian May was just kind of in the background, just kind of like singing. He didn't full out sing most of this stuff, so on the bonus stuff, that is. So it was kind of fun to hear how it all came together. Just you know, because working in a band, I was actually doing a session early yesterday morning, and we were working stuff out, and I was just like, yeah, this is exactly what it's like when you work things out. So it's kind of cool to listen to like real pros and like really, you know, people, top-notch people doing it too. And so for me, it was great. I think if you're not like a real big Eddie Van Halen or diehard Brian May fan, you may not be interested in all this extra stuff. If you're looking for songs, you're not going to get any extra songs here. This is just them jamming and working stuff out. But if you're like a diehard, I have to have every Van Halen and every, or Brian May, whichever, then yeah, get it. It's worth it. Maybe wait till the price drops. I don't know, but it was worth it for me. You know, Eddie didn't do a whole lot of stuff outside of Van Halen, so that's kind of what makes this a little bit rare and why I really wanted it when I was younger. I thought it was cool that Brian May got the blessing of Alex Van Halen before he released this. He didn't do this right after Eddie died. He redid his first two solo albums first, and then he'd already planned on doing this, but you know, he didn't want to cash in on his friends, you know, passing, which I thought was really respectable. But he knew the fans are going to want this anyway, so he waited, I thought, an appropriate amount of time to do it. Another kind of funny thing is that they called the third song Blues Breaker, and you know, in honor, and they had dedicated it to Eric Clapton, and Eric Clapton ended up not really liking the song that much, which Eddie Van Halen was like a huge fan of Eric Clapton, so I guess that was kind of a bummer to him, but I enjoyed the song. So EC, I guess, you know, you didn't hear what the rest of us hear, but this is your influence on our influence. So that's kind of how I was listening to it, and I wished he had heard it that way. And if any of you other guys have any, input you want to put in on this, any like cool Van Halen stories or Brian May stories, or even Barry Speedwagon stories, why not? Feel free to comment below. Tell me what you guys, tell us all what you think of this. If you think the price tag was worth it, anything you want to share, feel free. And as always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe. I think the comments I've been getting lately are awesome. Thank everybody. And I'm probably going to do a few more reviews this weekend because I got a lot of music and I did some road traveling, so I had plenty of time to listen to a lot of stuff. So until the next one, see ya.